Good evening. Welcome to Nye County. This is my week to host a show. In past weeks, we've had different hosts, and it's kind of the way it's set up. We're supposed to talk about Nye County. Recently, most of it's been about Pahrump. And unfortunately, the first segment, I think I'll be talking about Pahrump-centric issues. But stick with us because I will have the director of Nye County EMS, Emergency Management Services, Vance Payne. And we will talk about the U.S. Ecology Fire and the floods that we had during the rainstorm a couple weeks ago that shut down US 95 and the school districts in Amargosa and Beatty. And we'll get it from the horse's mouth on what really happened and what really burnt as we know it, and all that good information. I got to start tonight, though, with last week's show that was, I guess, a replay. And we had Tom Gibson was the host and had Dwight Lilly and Kenny Bent on. And they had a lot of things to say. And let's start with the first segment. I want it from their own mouth, so play that first clip.
Well, the hot issue is misinformation, I would say, is a key hot issue. In order to find out about water rights, private water rights for their wells, the laws and that, you have to be a detective, because here in Nye County in Basin 162, and by the way, folks, Basin 162 is the water basin that you here in Pahrump are taking your water from. It's been hidden somewhat, and there's been a lot of misinformation.
Yeah, misinformation. A lot of misinformation follows. Starts with, well, he said water rights, and you said your rights to water rights in your well. A domestic well doesn't have water rights. You have the right to drill a well. You have the right currently under state law to use 2 acre-feet of water on your property. Water rights is different than domestic well rights. That's something that's very key, and it's misunderstood in this plan over and over again. There's some more stuff they said that comes forward, so let's get the next clip.
The early 70s, the state engineer and the community here leaders knew that there was only enough water for 27,000 people in this valley.
There's only enough water for 27,000 people. We have 38,000. Quick, 11,000 leave. We're going to have to get 11,000 people to leave the valley. I wonder if Mr. Lilly would be one of the ones to volunteer to leave. Look, the plan or the study he refers to, there's other studies at the same time that show up to 495,000 people, which was pie in the sky, and they were dividing up for preferred equities at the time, and a lot of things weren't quite true. But none of this stuff is hard to find, and we know now, and in the plan it shows how much can 20,000 recharge, how many people can live in a basin with the 20,000 recharge. And the 20,000 recharge doesn't count what goes back in after it's been effluent and treated and put into ribs or put into receiving ponds. It doesn't count what goes into your septic and then it ends up overflowing into your leach lines, and that goes back in. It doesn't count that. So 20,000 acre-feet recharge can have 80 to 85,000 people in this valley. So it's a nice scare tactic that we can only have 27,000 people in this valley, and you can find a study to back anything you want. So you got to really be careful about what numbers you're throwing out. And it is also interesting during that whole conversation they had, which was a whole hour of the show, how they continued to tell you that their rights were being infringed on, that the well owners' rights were being infringed on, and that no one's looking out for the well owners. Well, the county commission is made up of 5 individuals, myself, Donna, Butch, Frank, and Lorinda, and we're all private well owners. There's nothing in this plan, nothing in the plan that will come to the Board of County Commissioners eventually that limits current well owner usage of water. They know that very well, but they continue to try to scare people to say we're going to take 2/3 of your water and you're going to have to cut down your trees and get rid of your dogs and cats, and nothing in the plan said that. There is a suggestion in the plan that moving forward, any new domestic well owners would be limited to a 1/4 acre foot. Again, the 5 county commissioners who you elected to look out for you are well owners. if we did something to limit your rights to your well, we would have to limit our rights. We're just not that stupid. They wanted you to believe that. They want you to believe that they're the only ones actually looking out for you, and the rest of us are all just bamboozled by the developers who, they're the evil party in this whole narrative that they were spinning, who, if it weren't for them, none of us would be here anyway. It would still be a small farming community with about 2,000 people in it. Might have been preferable. I don't know. I kind of like it the way we are now, and I like that we can add maybe 80,000, up to 80,000 people, which would probably increase our job base, and that's what County Commission has been working on, and increase values for your property. So it's really interesting when they pull up this figure and say there's only enough water for 27,000 people, because during the 70s, 60s, and 70s, when they farmed cotton out of this valley, they pumped 40 to 50,000 acre-feet a year out of this valley. The basin did not run dry. It did stop some springs from running. Some Mant Springs stopped running in the early 80s. It's going gangbusters now. But with all that water pumped and the valley didn't dry out, why do they think now, as we're pumping 14,000 acre-feet a year, that's the number we're pumping out of a 20,000 recharge, that they think suddenly there should only be enough water for 27,000 people? And I would put forward that if Mr. Lilly really believed that, then he should volunteer to leave. I don't believe that. Let's see, what's our next clip have to say?
What, for our viewers, what is the state engineer, or who is the state engineer, and what is his function?
The state engineer works for the Department of Water.
Natural resources.
Yeah, natural resources for the state. His job is to oversee the state's water supply, I guess is what you basically say.
The key word in that last clip was, I guess. Not sure where he works for, but he's the guy, and he is the guy. And the state engineer has authority under the law, and one of his only tools, if we were to overpump this basin, which we're not, but in the future, if we grow over 80,000, we could come to a point where we were overcharged, pumping the basin. He has one tool, and that's time in, time out. So the oldest water rights would stay intact. He's already said if it comes to that, and he has the authority to do this, he would limit domestic wells to indoor use only. Indoor use only. So if you have trees and you have lawns and you have lots of outside use, he has the authority to tell us not to do it. That's one of the reasons why now, why we're not overpumping, we want to try to put a plan in place for future generations. It's the smart thing to do. It's what you elected us to do. And in case you're just watching and you don't know who I am a county commissioner. I was elected in District 5. And District 5 has some municipal water systems. It has a lot of private well owners, of which I am one. So keep that in mind when you hear that we're going to cap your well or we're going to cut your water usage. Again, I'm going to say it over and over, we would have to do it to ourselves. We're just not that stupid. Now, things do have to change because there is, in the future, going to be a real issue. Is there an issue now? Only because there is an issue now. Some valley floor wells have dropped a foot a year, some 2 foot a year, and that has caused the crisis or the perceived crisis. But at the same time, on the fan, which was where we get all our water, comes off the fan from the backside of the Spring Mountains, Mount Charleston. The fan is up to, it's higher than it's been in living memory. So the water is very high in the fan. We're trying to get that water down to the valley floor. One of the ways to do that would be with recharge RIBs, rapid infiltration basins, would be to extend some of the utility lines so that they could rapidly infiltrate and put this water over. Find a way to move the water to get it to go faster, but you have different clay soils and you have a rock base. And so there's a lot of work to go into that. Throwing our hands up and making everybody afraid and come down and yell at the county commissioners because we're going to take your water rights is not an active or a productive way to get anything done. And later, when we show another clip, we're going to see why do they want to have this fear agenda that we're all going to run out. Well, you know, half of that same group, though, says we shouldn't do any plan because we're not overdrafting. And if we do any plans, we should take water rights owners and make them pay, and nothing should happen to the domestic well owners. As a county commissioner, I can't favor this group over that group. I have to look at everybody's rights, not just those who closest resemble mine, which is, you know, I am a domestic well owner. We have to weigh all that out. We're going to talk about, in the next segment, the committee, how it was formed, that they continue to say is a committee has no authority and has no whatever. We're going to talk about that. Stick around because we still have Vance Payne coming up, who's EMS director, is going to tell us what really happened with the floods and fire, and as far as we know. And got lots of good things to cover. But let's see if we can get this last clip in before we go to break.
Who owns the water in the state?
Who owns the water? 2 million acres of it belongs to the patented land,
But I mean, the state, as far as I understand,
would
the
be
state owns the water. Even if you, it's kind of like even if you had a pond in your backyard, in theory, that's their water. And that's why they get so bent out of shape.
Not
actually
quite.
it belongs to the public. That's their.
Yeah, the state's a government. The public actually owns the water.
Yeah.
The state, the dreaded state, the people, the state. What's the difference? The county, the people. The county is the people, the state is the people. This is how a republic works, and this is what drives me mostly crazy about these guys. They do not understand the basic principles of a republic. We elected the people at the state government to do the business of the state for us. You elected us at the county level to do your business. So yes, the state owns the water by the graces of the people who vote them into office. It's real simple. It's not a scary animal. It's not some amorphous thing. It is the people you elected to represent you. Stick around. We'll clear up some more stuff when we come back.